What's going on, guys? This is your old pal CHH. So I just got in a new release of Paranormal Activity. I got the Second Sight Blu-ray release. I am admittedly a really big fan of Paranormal Activity, and I always have been. So I thought it would be fun today to kind of look at the high-def releases of the Paranormal Activity films, and then of course kind of go through my thoughts on each of the films briefly. So this might be somewhat of a longer video, but you guys have spoken. You seem to like longer videos, so I like to try to oblige. So it's important to note, when these movies were coming out, DVD was a very popular thing still, and obviously it's still the biggest selling format today. But as the movies were coming out, I would buy them on DVD. Now, they're somewhere in this room, and they're probably down there, and I just didn't feel like digging for them. But right now, we'll look at the DVD releases that were coming out. Of course, Paranormal Activity, and I believe the first DVD release had the alternate endings on everything, and then, you know, a year or so later, after the smash success of the first one, we got Paranormal Activity 2 on DVD, and then Paranormal Activity 3, then the Part 4, which I found a little bit lackluster, but we'll talk more about that. Then we got the marked ones, which tried to really shake things up, and then Ghost Dimension, which I have some interesting thoughts about that. And then after that, a few years ago, guys, there was to talk about, this was right around the pandemic era, we got the announcement of Paranormal Activity Next of Kin, which there's two ways you can own that on physical media. The first way is the DVD release, which you can get, I believe, at Walmart and other places, but if you don't want that, there's also a Blu-ray release. But to get the Blu-ray release, you have to have the collector's release, which we'll look at that in a second. One of the ways I started watching these movies after a number of years, so that the series ended with Ghost Dimension, and I remember I was missing a few of them on DVD, and I might have even had one or two of them on Blu-ray, and those Blu-rays were duplicates, so I kind of was just like, I need a fresh restart. I'm confused. I don't organize my movies like an idiot. And I went to Walmart one day, and I saw for about 20 bucks they had this, the Paranormal Activity 6 movie collection. This is actually still available, and I wouldn't say that this is a bad option for a lot of you, especially if you guys are casual fans of the series and you wouldn't mind cataloging the Paranormal Activity movies. So this release is kind of like an Arrow thick style Blu-ray case. I would actually say it's exactly the thickness of an Arrow Blu-ray case. So here's a slipcover. Paranormal Activity 6 movie collection. And it's got 1 through the Ghost Dimension. We'll kind of have a look on here. So, yeah, I put some miles on this. I remember when I got this, me and my wife were excited to watch it. So, Paranormal Activity is a silver disc where the sequels are all... And that is a Blu-ray. And the sequels are all on blue, I think. Yeah, look at that. Marked ones, and then Ghost Dimension. And here's the thing. I'm wondering if this was actually a Blu-ray 3D. And I don't think it is. Because Ghost Dimension was a 3D movie, if memory serves. But this release does not have it as a 3D version. Now I'm wondering if Ghost Dimension came out on Blu-ray 3D. Okay, so if I have a picture up right now, that means that there was a Blu-ray 3D. If I don't, that means that there wasn't a Blu-ray 3D. But yeah, I remember getting this at Walmart, guys, and I would put a lot of miles on this. So this is something me and my wife used to do, or we still kind of do. We like to binge a franchise, something that we can sink our teeth into during the Halloween season, and once every 2 to 3 days we'll watch an entry. One year we did The Purge, another year we did Saw, and then one year we did Paranormal Activity. And I would be lying to you if I did not say that the most fun we had was actually the Paranormal Activity binge. Saw was fantastic, don't get me wrong, but we had a great time with the Paranormal Activity binge. So it was really fun, and this was the set I had used. And after that, this was 5-6 years ago. So I got this in like 20, I want to say it was like 18. Okay, 19. It has a date of 19, so this came out in 2019. So, yeah, I put a lot of miles on this. You could probably get this really cheap if you're interested. It's shelf-friendly, and it's 1 through Ghost Dimension. But the issue is, I think Next of Kin is great, but we'll get there. I think we should go to the Second Sight release, because this is really cool. So, guys, Second Sight is such a great company, and what's so cool about Second Sight is they're actually putting in the work on titles that are a little bit newer in the 21st century and giving them really cool releases, and they're filling a huge gap in the market. This is something I've been screaming at Scream Factory to start getting involved in, is doing releases for titles that are newer. Like I keep saying, Scream Factory, go after Hostel, go after Vacancy, go after the Toolbox Murders, go after all this stuff around this time, the 2000s. A Second Sight is doing that. So this is really cool, guys. This is their Paranormal Activity collector's release. And I just finished, as a matter of fact, watching the big interview that they have with Oren Peli on here, where he goes over the whole kit and caboodle of how he came up with the idea to do this movie, how he was so inspired by Blair Witch, and then after that, he was trying to look up found footage movies. That should have been a ton of them, but he said what's weird is it didn't have an explosion, and then the ones that he would see kind of like did everything the opposite of what Blair Witch did, giving actors lines, having too high of a production value, which I agree with, and that sort of thing. And so he wanted to make the next Blair Witch. And this movie has its detractors, and every movie does. We all have our opinions. An opinion is the lowest form of human knowledge, so we all are equal in that sense, right? We all have an opinion. I just remember going to the theater, guys. I'm 32, so when this movie came out, I was senior in high school. I was 18. When this movie came out, I'll never forget packed theater, packed to the gills. All my friends, all of our girlfriends were all hanging out, and literally, as the movie was progressing, when that nighttime scene would hit and you'd see the clock move and then it would stop around 3:30 and something would happen, sure enough, as soon as the blanket lifted up, the door closed, she gets pulled out of bed, one by one, people are just flying out of the theater. It was like 100% filled by the beginning, and by the end of the movie, I'd say it was 50% filled. People were running out. It was an experience like no other. Now, that wouldn't happen for the sequels. Now, granted, people would be at the theater to see it, but they knew what to expect. They knew what they were getting into. So, like, that craziness of the first one was never duplicated again. But yeah, I really like this release of from Second Sight. This is the collector's release. Look, they even got the picture of Katie when she was a kid. All right, let's take everything out of here. Now, the Blu-ray is in fact in the player, so there's no disc in here, but it's just a blue disc that basically says Paranormal Activity on it. Because this is a found footage movie, this is not something that would ever need a 4K. So this is the case. And I wanted to get this because it looks like a lot of the interviews and stuff on here was done by Second Sight, so it's got its own features. So if you're a super fan, you know, night one. Oh man, look at that. There's Katie. That is creepy. Oh man. Like, trying to stare at that for a little bit longer is difficult. There's them sleeping in the bed. That's the Second Sight art. And there's another one. Katie standing next to the bed. Just where's that picture at? Like it gives me the willies. Like, look at this. Like, don't lie. Just looking at that for longer than I don't really care. I think everybody agrees, like, what's the point of those cards? Like, really? Like, we could do without them. If it could make the price of these go down a little bit, yeah. Now, this is where the home runs are. We all love the books. Let's see if this has that good smell. Good, strong smell. But, yeah. Oh, this looks great. So, I love these, because I love, especially if it's a movie I've seen before and I enjoy a lot, I love to breeze through these while I'm watching the movie. I feel like I can get an even deeper experience. Yeah. So yeah, this looks cool. Really, really cool. Nice. So that is the Second Sight release. And let me see if it shows on the back. The special feed, like I said, there was some cool stuff on here, and it looks like it was interviews that were done exclusively for this release. There was an audio commentary by Oren Peli, an audio commentary by Mary Beth McAndrews and Terry Mesnard. Breaking Normal, a new interview with Oren Peli. Like I said, that was really cool. The Marked Ones, a new interview with Katie Featherston. I haven't watched that yet. The Man with the Camera, a new interview with Micah Sloat. and The Possessed, a new interview with Ashley Palmer, the alternate ending, the festival cut ending, which I actually enjoy a lot, the festival cut ending, deleted scenes, trailers, and TV spots. Basically a release that, if you're a super fan, you would get. And I am, in fact, a super fan of Paranormal Activity. I got this online, and it's relatively new. It's been out for a little bit, but I don't think it was a super seller. It just is what it is. But I really liked it a lot, and I'm happy to have it. And if you look at the front cover, you can vaguely see the outline of, like, whatever that devil was. This came out a few years ago, and the beauty about this is, you know, when it comes to physical media today, one of the issues a lot of us have is the limited nature of things. We all get the FOMO. I actually filmed a video about FOMO. I don't know if that video's come out yet or not, but it's my story with FOMO in regards to the Vinegar Syndrome Ultra releases. But the beauty is Paramount seems to understand, okay, we know that there is a die-hard dedicated fan base out there for these horror releases specifically. So they're doing nice stuff like this Paranormal Activity box set, which I still think that there are going to be people that have wondered, should I grab this or not? And also they did the Paramount Scares set, which is just incredible. I'm praying to God that they do that for Friday the 13th, like a nice release for Friday the 13th that way. So yeah, guys, the Paranormal Activity Ultimate Chills Collection, kind of a cheesy name, but I like it. Again, kind of like Second Sight. Look at that, you got the outline. So when you look at this, what's kind of cool is it makes a hand on the front. So we'll kind of briefly, let's pull these out, and I'll kind of give you my rating on a scale of 10 for each one. The first one, and I believe you had reversible art on these. Let's see. Let me pull this out. So, yeah, you had reversible art where they kind of had this more of a similar blue look, but I preferred having the, yeah, it is reversible. I'm just making sure. Yeah. You could reverse it, and you can still get the finger thing in the middle. But I decided I liked the original poster art that you would get from all the other releases. So I'm pretty sure I did that for most of these, but if not, oh well. So with Paranormal Activity, I gotta say I would give this a strong 9. I just thought it was incredible. Just so good. The experience of seeing this, I'll never forget. It just really blew me away. And in terms of special features, theatrical version and unrated version with alternate never seen in theaters ending, which is more than likely the they probably have just the different endings, one of them being the festival cut. Next up, guys, is Paranormal Activity 2. This includes the theatrical version, unrated version, and that's about it. Paranormal Activity 2, I'd give it a 6 out of 10. It's good, but it's not as good as the first one. And there were things I like about it, but it's just doing the same movie again in a different venue. I like that they try to progress the story, but it couldn't touch the first one. I do know that there are a number of people that actually are pretty big fans of 2, and I think that's cool. I think it's a good movie, but it's just not as good as 1 in my opinion. Next up, guys, Paranormal Activity 3. This one includes the theatrical version, the unrated version, and lost tapes, which is probably just its making of. 3 is I think the absolute best one. I'm gonna have to give this one a 10. I think this one was, you know, being a prequel is already a risk, because a lot of times people just say, oh, what's the point of a prequel? We know what the present time has, so these people are still alive and that sort of thing, especially in horror. But I thought this one really was smart. I thought this one was done really well, and they have some genuine good scares. And I'll never forget when you see the grandmas at the end, when the guy's at the house, he pulls up, opens the door, and they're just looking at him. Oh my God! I just remember being like, "Holy shit!" I was in the theater watching that. So I like 3 a lot. I like it a lot. So, and this is one that when I need my fix, sometimes I'll go straight to 3. But yeah, this one's really good. So I'm gonna give the 10 to part 3. Just love it. Next up, guys, we've got Paranormal Activity. Let's see. 4. Paranormal Activity 4. This one includes the theatrical version, the unrated version, and the recovered files. Again, probably just it's a little making of. This one's not great. It's not even, I think something's wrong with it. It's just the tread on the tires are wearing at this point. And I think they knew that. After this movie came out, I don't think it was as successful. I think it was still successful, but the reviews and the people were just kind of saying like, what else you got? Is that it? It's not that great. The story doesn't really progress. They try to, but and the Xbox Kinect thing I thought was okay, but I didn't think it was utilized well enough, quite frankly. And the characters, it's funny. Like I thought the girl and her boyfriend character, like they weren't bad. It's just that I felt like I said, I just felt with this one the tread was wearing on the tires. So not a great movie, not a bad one. I'd give this one a 5. Give it a 5 out of 10. They're kind of a tight fit on this thing. All right, next up, guys, we have Paranormal Activity, the marked ones. I did not see this in theaters. I was burnt out at that point. And so I remember what was interesting as I don't know what the general consensus was, but I do remember the people that I was watching on YouTube at the time. 3 out of 4 that I didn't ask for permission to say their name, so I'm not going to make them famous, but 3 out of the 4 did not like this movie. As a matter of fact, one of them, if you're a really hardcore fan of some of this guy, you'll know, and he did this years ago. His movie review of this was ripping the ticket, and then that was the movie review. I love you to death if you see this. But so I went into that movie thinking I wasn't gonna like it, and I actually rented it when it came out, or not rented it. I'm sure I bought it at the time. I can't, because I was renting some of these, probably the first 2 from like my local Hollywood Video when I had that. But I thought this was good. I enjoyed this one. I thought the characters were really cool, and there were some really weird moments, like when they lower the camera down in the beginning of the movie and they see the old naked woman and like another naked girl walk up to her, and it's just like, what is going on? Like, it was bizarre, and that's scary to me when I don't know what I'm seeing. Like, I can see it, but I don't understand what's going on. There's something, you fear what you don't understand, and like to me that was always just like, what? Them tying the movie in at the end where he magically shows up at Mika's house, I could have done without that, but I understand that they're wanting to try to tie that back, but I don't know. So, not a perfect movie, but I would give this one a 6.5. I thought this was an improvement over the last one, and just a good entry. And then, guys, I think they knew by that point, okay, we can give this hell one more time. So they made Paranormal Activity Ghost Dimension 3D. All right, so this one does have Blu-ray. Interesting. So for the home video fans, this one does not have the Ghost Dimension on Blu-ray 3D. But this one does. As you can even see, it says 3D, and it even says right there, Blu-ray 3D. So I've got to get that PlayStation VR headset so I can try to watch some of these movies in 3D. Ghost Dimension, I did not see in theaters. As a matter of fact, it did not even go to my local theater at the time. Now, my local theater is one of the worst theaters in the world, but usually if it's a big movie, they'll get it. But I think when I was watching the documentary, which is, we'll talk about this, they didn't really push this movie as hard as the other ones. I think they pushed it out to about 65% of theaters, not 100% of what they had been doing. So I didn't see this until I got the DVD of it like a year later in like 2015 or 16. Maybe I got the DVD in 16, and I thought this one was pretty ambitious, and I thought some of the stuff they did, I visually I thought was cool. I liked the idea of doing a 3D movie like this. I would have loved to experience it at the theater in 3D, because it seemed like 3D was trying to crawl its way out of the primordial deathbed that it was in. You know, we had Texas Chainsaw one year, and then they tried to really push it with this movie, but they didn't promote it as big. It probably wasn't as successful. I think it still was successful, but not as much as it could have been if they would have released it to more theaters. So I watched it in 2D, and I could tell some of the stuff they were doing I thought was ambitious and visually was pretty cool, especially when you would see the outlines of the entity with the smoke surrounding it and that sort of thing. I like the characters in this movie. I thought this was not a bad entry. I don't like it when people say, I don't understand the hate. I don't get the hate. No, I see the criticism for this, and it's not even necessarily that I disagree with everything. It's not that I disagree with all of that I read about this movie. Like if I go on IMDb or if I go to Letterboxd and look at what people are saying. It's just these movies are pretty straightforward with how they have to be done and the story and the scares and the way things are set up. So it's hard to really try to find that ingenuity in some of these sequels. But I thought this one went out of its way a little bit more than some of the previous ones in a better sense than, some of the previous ones. So I enjoyed this one, I think, a little bit more than the average person. I'd give this one as well a 6.5. I thought it was a pretty good entry and a pretty good way to kind of cap things off. So 3D, I'll give it a 6.5. This has the theatrical and deleted scenes in 3D on the Blu-ray 3D for disc 1, and on the disc 2 you get the theatrical version, the unrated version with the alternate ending, which is my favorite, and then the lost footage, which is just this documentary. So yeah, pretty cool that they actually did give you the Blu-ray 3D with this. So that's pretty cool that they did that. Because it's kind of dead. I don't know if 3D Blu-ray 3D is a dead format or not, but if it isn't, if it is, it's cool that they still include it. And then in this set, the only way to get a Blu-ray of this movie is in the set Paranormal Activity: Next of Kin. I loved this one. I mean, I really loved it. So Next of Kin it's really a different original thing. Now, if they went forward with this, could they somehow tie this with Katie's story and everything? Possibly, but it would have to be over 2 or 3 movies, I think. So this one is about this girl who, I think she was adopted, and she's trying to find a real family. She gets a lead, she meets somebody, and then she realizes, oh, it's an Amish community. But as she's there, she starts to get really uncomfortable. She's filming everything with her members that she has with her, her crew, the people that help her with her sound and audio and all that. And come to find out, this place is not what she thought it was. These people are not who they think they are. And there was some genuine suspense in this movie. There's a tunnel sequence that is just a nail biter. It was so good. And as a matter of fact, when I get done, I'm watching this one again. And without spoiling anything, out of any ending of the entire series, this has, I think, the best ending. I mean, just the best, creepiest ending out of all of them. So, Next of Kin, I'm gonna give Next of Kin a 8 out of 10, guys. I really enjoyed it. And it's weird because this was also a Blumhouse movie, I believe. Produced by Jason Blum and Oren Peli. Blumhouse criticized this movie, I think, because the director of this movie was kind of saying, no, we're not going to Halloween 2018 this and try to just live off of the old movies. We're going to tell our own story. I think that rubbed Jason the wrong way, so on a press interview one time, he dogged this movie and was like, no, I'm done with that. The last one that was made was terrible. It's sour grapes because the director shared his opinion on something. Get over it, Jason. I understand you guys should be on the same page, but this is a great entry, so I loved it. And then the coolest thing about this is, in this box set, guys, you get... Now, this is on Paramount Plus, so you don't have to get this to see it, but they give you a disc version of the Unknown Dimension documentary, and this is... I'll sum it up like this. This is the Crystal Lake Memories for Paranormal Activity, and it's just as good, if not even a little bit better. Anthony Massey, my friend that produced Halloween 25 Years of Terror, produced this, and it's done to perfection. It's done to absolute perfection. I thought this was so good. They go through each movie extensively. They get the cast members, the directors. There are some incredible stories that were regaled through here, and it's just a 10 out of 10 documentary. I really loved it. This is up there in terms of the quality of the 25 Years of Terrors, the Crystal Lake Memories, the Never Sleep Agains. Even if I'm not saying it's... Even if you don't love these movies, You'll be fascinated by this documentary, and just the story of how the first movie got released is incredible. So, honestly, I'm glad I pulled this set out to talk about it because, man, this really is a great box set. The Paranormal Activity box set. So, guys, I just wanted to talk about Paranormal Activity today. Those are the high-def releases of the movies. I would love to hear your story. I mean, please, type out your comments. Don't worry about it being long. I love to read the stories. My favorite comments are when people regale me with their own experiences, and it kind of connects us all together. So, I hope there's going to be another Paranormal Activity movie one day. I really do. I think that there's room to do some really cool stuff, and I hope that's not it. But I will say, the best bang for the buck is the Ultimate Chills collection, but for the super fans, if you want to get a couple new interviews with the actors, the Oren Peli interview was great. I really loved it. I learned even more. He told the story from some different angles that you would see from the Unknown Dimension documentary that's on the Paramount set. So I love it, and yeah, what can I say? I'm a big fan. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Just something a little bit different. Let's talk some Paranormal Activity today. Let me know your stories, guys, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care. Huge giant thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. Without you guys, this would not be possible. To get behind the scenes photos, videos, music, private live streams, and much more, you can subscribe to my Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Thank you to my patrons.